It's a good, just general view of a lot of the landscape. Just lime rocks everywhere. Just a silly amount of stuff. So this is Gobekli Tepe now. So this is when you get up to the site. This is the enclosure they built over the top of it. There's stuff all over the place. You can see like bedrock work here. There's a lot to say about Gobekli Tepe. I think this is the walk up. And I haven't looked at any of my Osmo footage yet, my stabilized camera footage yet. Maybe we'll look at some of that. I know I've got some some Gobekli Tepe stuff there, but this is the landscape around. Breezy. That's Kyle in front. So yeah, while this is playing, I I had to dip out for a couple of days, and it was a nightmare. I don't know if I talked about this, but so I've been going through citizenship, as in the last 2 years I've been trying to get my citizenship here, and you know, it's a long process. I started it like 2 years ago. You put in a bunch of money, put your application in, you wait. It takes like 16, 17 months maybe if you're lucky. And then you get a letter that says, okay, time to come for your interview. Like they check out, because you got to put all this data in and shit, they got to go through it. All everywhere you've been forever and whatever else. It's just like all your background, all that stuff. And then they go, all right, it's time for your interview. And they generally give you like 2-3 weeks notice. It's like, okay, boom, interview time. The first time they scheduled my interview was in October last year. And they scheduled it for when I was in Egypt. And I was like, shit. Now, you get one rescheduling of this interview. From what I understood, they said, you can reschedule it once. So I reschedule, I send in a thing, and then you get a notification that says, yes, we've accepted. So I'll point out a couple of things. I'll come back to that story. This is what I mean. Look at so T-pillars, right? And there'll be plenty of we'll get to look at all the T-pillars. But look at how these walls, they're built into, like the T-pillars are built into, they're not really built into them so much as the walls are built to encompass them. And the walls are clearly of a different fit and finish. And maybe they were built to protect them. Maybe this was part of the filling. This was obviously part of the filling and the burial. But notice this also. In the walls, and you see this in several places, you have older blocks, which look more like the larger blocks that are part of these pillars that have been used in the walls themselves. So I know for a fact, and Kyle in particular looked at like the sources for the dating, for how they get that 12,000-year-old date, and it's material in these walls, which is kind of where they go, well, this must have been part of how they buried it. But we don't really know. Like it's like, I think there's a good chance that this was far older, and then these walls were built around these pillars to either preserve them or hold them upright. And they've reused blocks that must have fallen off and been part of something that was there beforehand, and they put them in the walls. Like that's a classic sign. You see the same thing in Cusco, in areas in South America where they've, you know, the Inca they'd try to rebuild what they could. They'd put stuff back if they could put the jigsaw pieces back. But if they couldn't, they'd definitely use those blocks of stone in their own building walls, and you see that all over the place. It's entirely different style to what you see here. So it's like, I'm really not convinced that... I think it's pretty possible this is a lot older originally. Certainly was buried, I think, in that time frame. So, and you can't get into the enclosure. Like, we're standing on the rail. There's no way we could get inside the damn thing. So anyway, this is back to the citizenship story. So and then your high relief carvings and all the rest of it. So I reschedule it, right? And all you get back is like in a short period of time, they come back and they say, or you get an email or whatever. It says, yeah, we've accepted your request to reschedule it. We'll let you know. So you wait another 6 months, right? Before you don't know when they're going to reschedule it. It goes to the back of the queue again. And you get to do that once. So the goddamn 2 days before I leave, like the March 26th or something, I get a letter from the customs immigration people and says, "Oh, we've rescheduled your interview. Now it's April 12th. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. I'm in Turkey. Like, it's literally rolling. Let's assume I travel 2 months out of the year, right? That's a 1 in 6 chance. And if you go for 2 years, I just rolled snake eyes. I rolled a 1 in 6 chance for last year and for this year, where they scheduled shit where I was due to be overseas. And I was just like, you fucking must be kidding me. So I'm like, well, I'm going to Turkey. And then I call the call center, and the guy says, yeah, we can probably deal with it. And he types up the request on the phone to me. And so these weird pock marks on top of these blocks, I thought it was a little strange. And there's some inset notches over here. We'll see more of it on a few of them. Like there was something else stuck to it. And what are those dimples? Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know what they are. They're on a lot of them. And we fill out the request, and off I go to Turkey. And then about 3 or 4 days into the first week of the tour, I get an email that says, I'm sorry, we've refused your request to reschedule your interview. And you must appear at your, at your citizenship interview, April 12th in Sacramento. It's like, fuck. And of course, no showing something like that's not really a good idea. Like you literally jeopardize your chances at becoming a citizen, if not having them review your immigration status altogether. Like I'm on a green card, so they could actually get into that. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I had nothing for it. I had to fly back here from Turkey on a 14-hour flight. I mean, it's a 2-hour flight, Şanlıurfa to Istanbul, and then Istanbul, San Francisco. Drive from San Francisco home, just a 3-hour drive, and then go to and it's like a 7 a.m. meeting in Sacramento, the last 10 minutes. I flew back on the 11th. I got to home about 10 p.m. I left home at 5:30 the next morning, or 5 or 6 or whatever it was, to get to Sacramento, downtown Sac, where parking's a nightmare. Got to the building, went in, they dicked around, and they made me wait till about 8. I went and did my little interview and my 10 questions. It took literally 10 minutes. And then I'm back in the car, driving back to San Francisco, another 3-hour drive, and I was back on a plane by 1:30, going back to Turkey, and then to Istanbul, to Şanlıurfa. So I had like a 36-hour turnaround, and I had to fly back to the States and then back to Turkey, and then finish that second week of the tour, and then come back here. So yeah, I've seen the inside of some airplanes lately. Unbelievable. So I was a little grumpy, and then so you might understand when I say I'm a bit jet lagged and tired and all the rest of it, and I am, because then it was like, we did finish that tour up. We spent a couple of days up at Bodrum, just relaxing, but I was dying to get home, and then we got home on the 20th, and that was 2 days ago. It feels like. So, and now I got to fly to Colorado. I mean, I'm off to Colorado for a couple of days, but. Anyway, so yeah, belts, hands, fingers, just like the CHD blocks. It's like H blocks, right? Tiwanaku, woo. There's these foxes. And these pillars are interesting. Like, it didn't look like they were really designed to stay up for too long. Like, they're a little flimsy almost. But, they're inset. And the other thing is, too, they cut these things down to the bedrock, and then they flatten out the bedrock, which is also a significant amount of work. And by the way, covering this up, burying this, probably the work of generations. Like this is not an insignificant amount of dirt to move. And there's actually this one here, this little broken one here, the very tippy top of it. This one it's the only reason that they even knew this was here in the first place. Just the very teeny top of this block was poking out. Farmers tried to they thought it was a rock. They tried to remove it. They couldn't remove it. So they're like, oh, well, fuck it. We'll cover it with dirt and we'll move on. And then they told someone and they dug it up again. They figured out it's actually a block that's been shaped. And that's what led them to the discovery of the site altogether. It was actually discovered in the 1950s. But it was basically diagnosed straight away as not being very old or very important. It wasn't until the 90s where people looked at it and started to reevaluate stuff. What's up, Dan? Howdy, mate. You missed the start. You missed about all of it. I'm not going to be streaming for very long today. we're going to look at a few of these pictures. So you got this other stuff, these holes. There's a couple of these too around the place. And again, you've got, these walls, just these blocks are built into these walls. But you can see also that this is bedrock, So this is all bedrock. I thought it was concrete, like they'd concreted the floor in here or something, but it's actually bedrock that they've lapped down, and they've shaped these pedestals up out of it and then notched them in for these pillars. Hunter-gatherers, yo. And some of these pillars are 3-4 meters tall. And there's big, fat, thick ones over here. Like, these are quite thin, but some of these other ones are significant. And at Karahan, there's one that's at least 30 tons. There's the hands going around the belt like you see at Easter Island. They're not all humanoid, no. Some of them just, like the vulture stone has a whole bunch of different carvings on it. It is really fascinating to start, though. You can see, like, there's a scorpion carving here where like, literally the walls are covering up the carvings. And these are original. Like, this isn't, like, reconstructed by the people that uncovered it. So a lot of them are these anthropomorphic, like foxes. Foxes are really prevalent here at Karahan Tepe. It's leopards. This is the vulture stone. The handbags, magnets, whatever. The vulture. And it's buried. Like, there are a few pictures of, I think, a little deeper here, but this is the famous one that a lot of stuff is sort of talked about. Another fox. Don't know what this is. Yeah, and then there's there's a bunch of astronomical alignments that have to do with the arrangement of the different enclosures. There's a paper that came out earlier this year about that. More dimpling on top of these blocks. That's the other thing. Karahan Tepe is older than this. They say this was all ceremonial, even though there's infrastructure here like drains and cisterns, buildings. Karahan Tepe definitely were dwellings, like permanent dwellings. It's 500 years older. It was civilization. Yeah. It's people were settled there. That's what civilization is. Karahan Tepe also has these pillars with the hands going around it, but the hands on the Karahan Tepe one, they got like 8 fingers on the hands. Bird poop? Yeah. I mean, what are you gonna do? Yeah, and so this site, it's dated, its burial is dated to right in the middle of the Younger Dryas. And very sophisticated carving, these high relief carvings, very interesting. More foxes, the arms. The alignment stones, these were probably observational stones. And again, you probably wouldn't, these walls get in the way of these observations, so originally they were probably had a functional purpose when these walls weren't here, and then these walls were added later, I suspect. Like these rough stone walls. There's your classic Gobekli Tepe shot. Snake blocks. See, this is the motifs that you see at like on the Chulpa Towers around Lake Titicaca. This is another excavation area with smaller T-pillars. They've only excavated 5% of this site, so this is everywhere here. That phone camera does a nice job, doesn't it? This is literally a Pixel 7. And they're trying to keep the birds off, I guess. I'm happy with it. I mean, I bought it for its specific. You see this notch? A few of these stones had these notches in the top as well. Another one over there. So this is pretty cool. This big lizard thing, jaguar maybe. Really high relief. This would have been a giant pillar. See the pieces of it all busted up and fallen down over here? The top of it, I guess. These are probably chunks from the top of it. This would have been a big-ass pillar. Another notch in the top of that guy. Notch in top of this one. So there may have been structures on top of this, you know? Might have been roofs. Which makes it questionable about the whole, I guess, alignment purpose. So whether or not it was, you might have had other aids. It might have been, who knows what was on top of it. There's something sort of clicked into these things. And there's a lot of erosion. So this was clearly open to the air for quite some time to get that erosion on some of these stones. And I'll tell you what, Karahan Tepe, the erosion on that site is amazing. It is crazy that it's 12,000 years. I think a lot of this is older than that. You can see the bedrock below here as well. We'll show you Karahan at least today. I don't know if we'll get to everything today. I didn't mind the enclosure. They got to do something to protect it from the rain, I guess. I mean, people bitch and moan about it, but I'm like, it's for what it is. It does give you a nice view of it. Would have been great to get in there, obviously, but you're not going to let us do that. Yeah, dinosaur carvings. I'm not sure it's that old, but it's a nice boar. Look at that thing. Some little dodos or whatever. All male animals. Where is this? This might be the quarry. No, yeah, this is at the top of Gobekli Tepe, like looking out. In fact, so see this quarry. There's actually we found a quarry on one of these hills over here. It's actually in sight of Gobekli Tepe. There's also a big T-pillar in a quarry down in the woods over here somewhere that nobody knows about. Ramazan is about the only one who's got a picture of it, and then he tried to get out there and they'd fenced it off, but there is a T-pillar in a quarry, a big one. Still in a quarry down here. But you can see some of this stuff's been quarried pretty clearly over here. We actually went to a quarry. We found it on the map and made Ramazan take us out there, and he thought it was modern. We're like, this ain't modern. It might be Roman. This is another little area that you don't often see. It's the vulture stone again. All right. Yeah, you can talk about Gobekli Tepe for a long time. There's some really interesting papers been written about it. There's some flint we found laying around, so there's a nice chunk of flint. Worked flint. We found so much flint at Karahan. Just chunks like arrowheads and stuff everywhere. And again, yeah, all of that stuff's, you know, at least 12,000, 13,000 years old. I hope you all enjoyed that video. I'm trying to make these things a bit more of a regular upload to my second channel here, the UnchartedX live channel. So please do consider subscribing to this channel. That really helps me out. Big thanks to Dub Selector for taking the time to edit these videos. Very much appreciate his help on this. Also, if you want to catch me live over on Twitch, I am streaming 2-3 times a week. I generally announce when I'm going to stream in my Discord. So if you want to join the Discord, take a look below in the comments. There'll be a link to the Discord. And if you like the work that I'm doing, please do consider supporting the channel through the value for value model. There's lots of ways that you can support the work that I'm doing. It's all outlined on my website. It's unchartedx.com/support. We'll catch you in the next one.